I died during childbirth from severe bleeding, a tragic loss of both mother and child. As I floated in the air, I saw my beloved husband, Finlu, quickly remarry. The bride was my most trusted and closest friend. Zara Ling finally got her wish to marry my husband. However, she didn't know that Finlu had actually killed someone before. The last time I killed someone was because my mother-in-law complained that the dishes I cooked were too salty. It was the first year of our marriage when we were deeply in love and inseparable. The arrival of my mother-in-law shattered the beautiful world we had as a young couple. She has a twisted sense of possessiveness over Finlu, constantly implying in her words that her son was raised for me and even scolding Finlu in front of me for forgetting his mother after marrying a wife, because Finlu always sides with me and doesn't let me do any household chores. My mother-in-law dislikes me even more, nitpicking at everything I do. Deep down, I didn't want her to think of me as a lazy, good-for-no daughter-in-law, nor did I want to put Finlu in a difficult position between us. So, I took the initiative to do household chores, cooking meals for her every day. That day, I spent the entire afternoon busy cooking, preparing 8 dishes and a soup. Yet, she slammed the freshly made hot soup heavily onto the table. The splashing broth scored the back of my hand, leaving a large patch of blisters. She even overturned the entire table of dishes I had painstakingly prepared, sending them crashing to the floor. She said I deliberately made every dish too salty, intentionally trying to drive her away this way, but usually it's Finlu who cooks. I rarely step into the kitchen, so before serving each dish, I tasted it repeatedly. It wasn't salty at all. Hiding my scolded hand behind my back, I apologized helplessly to my mother-in-law, my heart unbearably heavy. Finn looked at the mess on the floor and smiled at me very gently. It's okay. We'll go out to eat later. You go back to your room first. Upon hearing this, my mother-in-law stepped forward without a word and slapped Finlu across the face. You ungrateful wretch. Now you don't even respect your own mother, do you? Useless thing. Finlu recently had an inflammation in his left ear, and the base of his ear was already hurting. I hurriedly held Finlu's face to check. How is it? Does it hurt? Is your ear okay? Any ringing in your ears? Finn. Expression remained unchanged. He just smiled and shook his head at me, then pushed me into the room. My mother-in-law lowered her eyelids and glared at Finlu and me sideways. Before long, the old woman outside suddenly let out a scream that didn't sound human. My heart pounded with terror. When I tried to rush out, I found the door was locked. From the outside, a thick metallic scent of blood seeped in through the door. Crack. The grandmother's screams lasted a full half hour. Finally, Finlu opened the door. He had changed into a dark green raincoat, still smiling at me with the same gentleness. Yet I couldn't help but feel a chill run down my spine. Thin raincoat was splattered with mottled blood stains, still warm. I looked in horror behind him. Mother-in-law lay in a pool of blood, her eyes hollow, the eyeballs gouged out, and her limbs severed, almost turned into a human. Swine by Finlu. My whole body trembled, my legs already too weak to stand. Finlu took off his glasses, wiped the blood off the lenses, and said to me with a smile, "Wife, no one will ever bully you again." I nodded stiffly. He took my hand, blew on it gently, and looked at the small blisters with a pained expression. "It's all my fault for not protecting you. Does it hurt?" I shook my head mechanically again. Suddenly, tears fell from his eyes. "It's her fault. She tormented me for nearly 30 years. And now she wants to bully you, too. Myra, please don't be afraid of me. Don't leave me." He held me tightly, trembling in my arms. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself down. "Honey, there's a 34 inches red suitcase under the bed." This was his first time
killing someone.
I always knew Finlu's childhood was extremely oppressive and painful, with his grandmother constantly beating and scolding him since he was little. Several times Finlu nearly died. From her beatings and slaps were just routine. All the suffering he endured in this life came from his closest relative. His mother. I don't care if he's a murderer or not. I only know has always been very good to me. After that, he never even stepped on an ant again. In the eyes of outsiders, he has always been a gentle and humble gentleman.
We
Lived just like an ordinary couple. However, from then on he became completely deaf in his left ear.
The day
I died happened to be the 7th anniversary of my marriage to Finlu.
I
Floated in midair, holding our daughter in my arms. I saw Finlu had prepared 999 roses for me in the trunk. It's my favorite pink rose, which he personally picked out one by one at the flower
shop.
The florist, seeing the sweet smile on his face as he selected the flowers, couldn't resist teasing him. Young man, you must be newly in love. Once you're married, you probably won't be willing to put in this much effort anymore. Finlu smiled.
Today is my
Wedding anniversary with my wife, and she's about to give birth. The florist suddenly understood and said enviously, So, you're already married. Your wife must be virtuous and beautiful too. Deserves such thoughtfulness from you. Finlu nodded with a smile. I stood beside him, tears streaming down my
face.
I bet he was thinking that the lazy little pig at home, who loved to eat and hated to work, was far from being virtuous and capable.
But he
Didn't know that the little lazy pig he had always disdained was already dead. Even our two long-awaited little princesses died. Just moments ago, I died at the hands of my most trusted best friend, Zara Ling. A double murder. Zara Ling stood in the blood-soaked delivery room, sneering at my lifeless body. She leisurely removed the sterile gloves stained with my blood and casually tossed them onto my corpse.
On
The last night before my death, I had a big fight with Finlu because I suspected him of cheating. My husband, Finlu, sighed coldly at me. 9 months pregnant, offering no explanation.
tears.
Immediately welled up in my eyes. This woman sent me your chat logs and intimate photos together. The evidence is undeniable, yet you still won't admit
It
She advised me to get an abortion early and divorce you, saying, You two are the real love. I threw the phone to Finlu, letting him see those disgusting conversations for himself. Meanwhile, I continued crying uncontrollably by the
side.
Finlu took the phone, his face serious as he examined the contents as if he truly knew nothing about it.
I
Once naively thought that Finlu would be different from other men, that men with higher education and higher IQ would be more responsible and self-disciplined. As expected, good-looking men are all the same. No good at all.
Men are
Nothing but primitive creatures.
controlled by their lower instincts. I
Was trembling with anger. I'll prove I didn't cheat. Just give me some time. Finlu remained very calm, finally, willing to defend himself with a single sentence. He put on an innocent face, but I felt utterly disgusted inside.
I
Snorted coldly and turned away, ignoring him as usual. He held me in his arms to comfort me, still as gentle as ever.
I
Pushed him away and spoke the harsh words decisively. Divorce. We'll go to the Civil Affairs Bureau tomorrow to get divorced. But inside my heart was weeping. We were so deeply in love.
Why
Did he have to shatter my beautiful illusions about life? Finlu fell silent, staring at me with a stern expression. If you dare mention divorce one more time, we'll go through with it. Immediately. His serious and resolute demeanor intimidated me. I didn't dare retort and stormed back to the bedroom. In a huff. The next day, in a fit of anger, I left him behind and went to the hospital alone for my prenatal checkup.
for the first time, and it was on this
very day that I died at the hands of Zara Ling. Finlu was also driving to the hospital, when he received the news of my death. I sat in my usual passenger seat from when I was alive, giving him reminders just like before. Honey, when you receive the news of my death, please don't get too emotional. You must drive
Safely.
Suddenly, his phone rang. Zarang's panicked and trembling voice came through the phone. Finlu, come to the hospital quickly. Myra had a difficult labor with massive bleeding and went into shock. She's already stopped breathing. The moment Finlu heard the news, he nearly fled the accelerator, running through 4 or 5 red lights to reach the hospital. He stumbled and scrambled his way to the hospital, falling, his glasses shattering, his face and knees scraped, only to stagger back up and keep running. I cried as I followed behind, begging him to slow down. But he didn't even turn his head. He couldn't hear my voice nor see my tears. He shoved Zara Ling, who was sobbing over my corpse, usually so composed, never one to lose control, now stripped of all grace, his manners and upbringing gone. How could this happen? Weren't you supposed to be with her? He roared at Zara Ling, his hands trembling as he tore open the shroud covering me, his knuckles turning white, his pupils behind the shattered lenses contracting violently. He held me in his arms, utterly helpless, sobbing uncontrollably, holding our daughter beside him. I wiped his tears in
Distress.
Darling, you still have a long life ahead. Promise me you'll live well, even alone if possible.
Forget me. I
don't want you to grow old in loneliness, from dating to marriage. Finlu and I seem to have remained in the honeymoon phase all along.
He would
drive me to and from work, take care of all the household chores, kiss my lips when I acted spoiled, and silently stay by my side when I was sad and crying. We supported each other through thick and thin, and once vowed to grow old together. The sweet memories of the past flooded my heart like a tide, and my heart ached unbearably. I lowered my head and kissed my daughter in my arms, gently saying to her, "Sweetheart, look, this is Daddy." Just yesterday, Finlu had picked out a few little pink dresses for our daughter. It's just a shame she won't have the chance to wear them for her daddy to see.
Finlu
wouldn't allow anyone else to touch my
body.
He personally dressed me in a soft pink dress, carefully applied my makeup, and with his own hands, pushed me into the cremation furnace. On the day of my burial, Zara Ling wore a white dress, similar to mine. She was already more beautiful than me, and now she looked even more radiant. During this time, she stayed by Finl's side without a moment's rest, comforting and taking care of him. She openly went to my home to help him with laundry and cooking, her gaze always tender and affectionate. When looking at Finlu didn't refuse. Occasionally, when he politely showed her some concern, she would be deeply moved. 3 months later, Zara Ling married my husband as she wished. Zara Ling and I had been inseparable since our student days. She was my childhood friend and became an obstetrician gynecologist after graduation. After I got pregnant, she personally handled all my prenatal checkups throughout the pregnancy. During the last prenatal checkup, my water suddenly broke. I had no choice but to be induced for an early delivery. Zara Ling kept persuading me to have a natural birth, saying it was better for the mother, that I was well suited for it, and that a C-section would take longer to recover from. I believed her words. After all, we had been close friends for over a decade, and it never crossed my mind that she would harm me, until I found myself floating in midair, watching as Zara Ling forcibly pulled
my daughter out.
The daughter was a limp, purplish lump. She must have died.
2.
She had already suffocated from lack of oxygen in my womb. It's all my
fault.
I was too useless and killed my
daughter.
But I seemed to hear my daughter crying again.
She clearly let
out a weak, kitten-like sob. I was overjoyed. I thought she had already been stillborn. Zara, hurry and save my
daughter.
She's still alive. I was spinning around anxiously in the sky, placing all my hopes on Zara Ling.
At
that time, I didn't even know that the person who killed me was Zara Ling herself. I thought that since I was already dead, at least my daughter could bring some comfort to Finlu. But then I saw my best friend casually toss my still living daughter into a yellow medical waste bag with a thud.
That
little bastard's will to live is really
strong.
Didn't even die with the umbilical cord wrapped around its neck.
Like that.
However, unfortunately, your mother is already dead. You might as well join her down there, so she won't be too lonely all by herself. I covered my mouth, staring in disbelief at the woman who stood before me with a triumphant smile. My child. I screamed and ran to the trash bin, stretching out my pale hands trying to pick up my daughter. Yet my fingertips passed through her body without any resistance. Just like that, I watched helplessly as my daughter gradually stopped struggling and breathing in the medical waste bag, stained with my blood. And Zara Ling stood by unmoved. She had just arrived in this world, not even having had the chance to feel the warmth of her father's embrace. Something in her chest was crumbling apart. Apparently, even the dead could feel heartbreak. Am I wrong? You're supposed to push when the contractions come during childbirth. Don't you even know that?
If you have a
difficult labor and can't deliver, don't blame me.
I really don't understand how
Finlu, that top science graduate from Peking University, could fall for an idiot like you. Rarely is Finlu not trailing behind you like a shadow today. You didn't know, did you? Actually, those intimate photos and chat records from yesterday were sent by me. All AI generated. How could you believe something so fake? She let out a cold laugh, her face brimming with triumph. And just now, during your prenatal checkup, it was me who deliberately ruptured the amniotic sac to drain your waters, forcing you to give birth now. Am I wrong? Don't blame me. This is my only
chance.
Who told you to steal my Finlu? You don't deserve him at all. I'm the one who suits him best. I covered my mouth, tears uncontrollably streaming
down.
But I remember secretly asking Zara Ling back then if she liked Finlu. At that time, she told me that no matter how good-looking Finlu was, he was still a country boy with farmer parents and no future. I confessed to her that I liked Finlu. She clearly didn't care at all. Just said I wasn't Finlu's type. He jokingly told me, "Don't be a toad, lusting after a swan's flesh back then." Finlu's family wasn't well off, but he was undoubtedly both the top student and the school heartthrob. It's just that his personality was too aloof and indifferent, always giving off an unapproachable vibe.
We met at a
friends gathering back then. Finlu already had many pretty girls writing him love letters and confessing their feelings, but he never accepted any of them, saying that his focus at the time was on studying and he didn't want to be in a relationship. I liked him too and kept pestering him relentlessly.
He
rejected me no fewer than a dozen times. But no matter what he said, I refused to give up and insisted on bringing him breakfast every day. Who could blame me? His handsome face just happened to hit all the right notes in my heart. I fell in love with him at first sight.
While
his love for me grew over time, no one expected that Finlu, the aloof academic genius, would actually fall in love with someone like me, a toad. It wasn't until today that I finally understood everything. Turns out Zara Ling had been secretly in love with Finlu all along. She just refused to admit it. Finlu did not cheat. I wronged him. It was my distrust of Finlu that gave Zara Ling the opportunity to take advantage. But just because she coveted Finlu, she could kill me and my daughter.
The bone
chilling hatred left me unable to rest
in peace.
I will make her pay.
On the
days Zara Ling married my husband, she wore my old wedding dress. She had originally spent a fortune to have a custom-made gown designed by herself, hand-embroidered with the birth dates of her and Finlu, symbolizing their perfect match and a lifetime of happiness together. Finlu looked melancholy and said, "Aren't you and Myra the closest of friends? Wearing the dress she once wore to marry me would be like honoring her memory. Don't you want to?" Of course I'd be more than willing.
Zara.
Ling only thought he hadn't moved past the grief, unaware that Finlu was using this method to summon spirits on their wedding night. With the sound of running water from the bathroom, Zara Ling eagerly anticipated the man she had secretly loved for over a decade to kiss and caress her. She lay on the marital bed Finlu and I once shared, lost in her own romantic fantasies. Outside the window, a sudden storm raged, and faint, intermittent cries of a child could be heard in the distance. The paper-cut, double happiness character on the wedding bed suddenly moved without any wind. The large character inexplicably turned as red as blood. Zara Ling heard it and saw it. Feeling an inexplicable chill rise up her back, she jolted awake from her sweet dream. All excitement
Gone.
Finlu, are you done showering?
The
sound of running water continued, and Finlu ignored her. On such a quiet night, the wardrobe door had been opened. At some unknown moment, inside hung my white wedding dress, the very same one Zariang had worn during the day.
The
wardrobe door creaked softly. Varang patted her chest and muttered to herself, "It's fine. It's fine. There are no ghosts in this world. Don't scare yourself." But when she turned around again, she saw a woman standing by the bed, giggling at her. This woman had no facial features, with a bulging belly, continuously waving at her. Zara. Ling screamed as she backed away.
Fin.
Come back quickly. Myrong has come back for me. Until her back hit the headboard with nowhere left to retreat, Finlu heard the sound and rushed into the bedroom with excitement, as if he had been waiting right outside the door. Myra came back for me. Where is she? Finlu dashed into the bedroom, looking around as if searching for something, and his eyes, which had been dull for so long, suddenly lit up. Zara Ling froze. Weren't you taking a shower? Finlu was dressed in a well-tailored suit, very formal, but not the one he wore during the daytime wedding. He seemed to be waiting for someone. Finlu ignored her, just rummaging wildly through the bedroom in search of something. There is nothing. She never came back. She will never forgive me. Finlu collapsed weakly onto the wedding bed, muttering something under his breath. After long, while he got up and left,
no
explanation was given. Farang didn't even have time to speak up and ask him to stay before the sound of the door closing echoed. The phone on the nightstand lit up. Working overtime for company matters. Won't be home tonight. Finlu sent a text message. On the wedding night, there's company business requiring overtime. What an absurd reason. He couldn't even be bothered to come up with a plausible excuse. Zara Ling screamed in anger. Forgot even to be afraid. Her eyes widened as she shouted at the empty air before the
bed.
Myrong, you've monopolized Finlu for over a decade. Isn't that enough? Even in death, you won't let me rest.
Do
you think I'm afraid of you?
I've
married him now, and I will surely stay united with him till our hair turns white with age. So just give up. Her facial muscles twisted, her features contorted more horrifically than a
ghost.
My arms were a bit sore, so I placed my daughter on her neck to ride, while taking the opportunity to stretch my limbs. Darling, I will haunt you relentlessly, and you will live in fear forever. Holding my daughter, I stood, smiling by the bed, locking eyes with her. That night, she lay alone in the empty room, tossing and turning all night long. Early the next morning, Zara Ling emerged from the bedroom, yawning repeatedly with dark circles under her eyes and rubbing her neck. However, as soon as she stepped out of the bedroom, she saw that the wedding photo she had personally hung in the center of the living room had been replaced. My black and white funeral portrait was now prominently displayed right in the middle of the living room wall. The May In the photo is gentle and serene.
I
Kept smiling and staring at her without blinking. Zara Ling was so unnerved by my gaze that her legs went weak. The day after the wedding, Finlu decorated their bridal suite in the style of a mourning
hall.
Actually, Finlu also hid my ashes under the bed in the bedroom, something Zara Ling doesn't know about. Finlu returned at some point and is now carefully wiping my photo in the living
Room.
It's clear that Zara Ling is on the verge of breaking down just the second day after their wedding.
Finlu.
What are you doing? Our home isn't a place for a memorial altar. Myra has already been buried. Zara Ling suppressed her anger and tried to speak to him calmly. Finlu didn't even look at her, replying nonchalantly, "This is my home, not yours." Zara Ling was left speechless. A few seconds later, her voice softened as she said, "Finlu, I know you still can't accept the fact that Myra has left us. But life is
long.
We're married now and I'll bear your children in the future. You can't keep drowning in the sorrow and memories of the past, can you, child?" Finla gave a half smile. "You're right.
Well,
Have our own children in the future."
he
Seemed to have adjusted his mood, offering her a gentle smile. Zara Ling instantly felt relieved. Compromised.
my
Funeral portrait has been hanging here.
so openly all this time.
Zara, I was wrong yesterday, missing our wedding.
Night.
I'll make it up to you tonight. Finla smiled as he gazed into Zara Ling's eyes, and Zara Ling nodded shyly. Meanwhile, I watched from the side, trembling with fear. "Honey, you must not do anything rash." The last time he showed this expression was when he dismembered my mother-in-law in this very living room. He smiled at me and said, "Myra, next I'm going to cut my mother's body into pieces for easier
Packaging.
It might get a bit bloody, so why don't you wait for me in the room?" Back then, before he could even finish his sentence, I had already rushed to the bathroom to vomit. Actually, Finlu's violent tendencies have been well hidden these past few years. Finlu didn't do anything cruel as I had imagined. I breathed a sigh of relief. Finlu is still very young and I don't want him to ruin the rest of his life because of me. At night, Zara Ling was drunk and fell asleep.
Finlu sat in the
Living room looking up at my black and white memorial photo, smoking alone.
the
Entire room was dark. I leaned on his shoulder and muttered to myself, "Finlu, when did you learn to smoke? Why would you do something as self-destructive as this? Did I agree to it? Wife, forgive
me. Huh.
I straightened up. Can he hear me? Thin expression remained unchanged. "Forgive me for not protecting you this
Time.
You're so afraid of the dark.
It
must have been very lonely down there. Alone." I nodded pitifully and leaned back against his shoulder. I really thought he could hear me. "But don't worry, I'll dig out Zara Ling's child to compensate you later, then chop her into pieces. After that, I'll come down to accompany you as soon as possible." "Okay." His face was full of sincerity. His fingers burned by the cigarette, yet completely unaware.
I
Widened my eyes and shook my head
frantically.
No, Finlu, I'll handle the revenge myself. No need for you to do it. If you kill again this time, you'll definitely face the law.
Last
time was just luck. You can't act recklessly anymore. The underworld is dark and cold. The living world is much better. Believe me." I leaned close to Finlu's ear and shouted as if he could actually hear me. Finlu stood up, took me down from the wall, and held me tightly against his chest under the moonlight. His face was deathly pale, but his dark eyes were glistening with moisture. He curled up in the corner of the sofa, clutching my memorial photo tightly to his chest. His muffled sobs filled with the despair and agony of a trapped beast. My heart aches as if being twisted. Half a year later, Zara Ling became pregnant. She was thrilled and immediately shared the good news with Finlu. Honey, I have a feeling it's a girl, the daughter you've always wanted. With a shy and tender touch, she caressed her belly, a satisfied smile spreading across her face.
Finlu
Responded coldly. Are you sure it's mine? The smile on Zhurang's lips
froze.
Finlu coaxed her with a laugh.
I
Was just joking. You're so wild. Clinging to me day and night. Who else's? Could it be? Stop it. Zara leaned shyly, buried herself in his arms.
whose?
Clinging to you day and night? Thin lips stiffened for a moment before he reluctantly said, Since you're pregnant, don't go to work anymore.
Take
Sick leave from your workplace tomorrow. And rest at home to take care of the baby. Zara Ling obediently nodded and naturally demanded, I have a prenatal checkup in a few days. You should come with me. Zara Ling looked bashful, her eager gaze fixed on Finla's face. Every prenatal checkup after I got pregnant was
personally conducted by
Zara Ling, and Finla would take time off to accompany me each time. Throughout the pregnancy, all situations were discussed and consulted with Zara Ling and Finlu. He eventually became almost an expert in obstetrics and gynecology, even able to understand various test reports. Zara Ling noticed Finla's level of devotion to me, his constant care and attention, and his accommodating attitude in every way.
She
Naturally assumed that Finla would treat her the same way. Her jealousy and resentment towards me probably deepened after witnessing these scenes firsthand. But who would have thought? Finlu pushed her away from his embrace and said, indifferently, Aren't you an obstetrician gynecologist? The hospital is full of your old acquaintances.
I'm
Busy with work, so go by yourself. Finlu took out his phone and started swiping, casually responding to her.
Zara
Ling's eyes immediately turned red, looking like she was about to burst into
tears.
She was just about to whine in protest.
Ding dong.
The doorbell suddenly rang. Finla got up to answer. The door on his own. The freezer I ordered has arrived. Zara Ling wiped away her tears helplessly, full of confusion. Honey, why did you order a freezer? Don't we already have a fridge at home? Finla smiled and said softly, It's all for you, for me.
The smile on
Finla's face grew even brighter. Zara Ling suddenly felt that the way Finla was looking at her today was very strange. It was pitch black all along, inexplicably sending a shiver down her
spine.
Finla was about to reply to her when he was called away by the workers moving the freezer. The freezer was placed in the basement of a villa. That place had always been used for storing miscellaneous items, and Zara Ling had never been there even once. Could it be? She recalled a highly publicized case of exorcicide that had gone viral online recently where the wife's body was hidden in a freezer. Zara Ling's face instantly turned deathly pale. Unconsciously, she raised her head and locked eyes with me hanging on the wall. In the black and white photo, a strange smile suddenly appeared on my face. Zara Ling's body involuntarily trembled. Then she saw two streams of bloody tears flowing from my eyes in the memorial portrait. The dark red teardrops splattered onto the floor with a patter. Zara Ling heard it loud and clear.
Ah!
Zara Ling screamed and rushed forward, grabbing my memorial photo and smashing it violently onto the
floor.
The glass frame shattered into pieces instantly. The tears of blood vanished. In the photograph, I still smiled with serene gentleness. Zara Ling seemed to understand something. She suddenly grabbed the scissors on the table and stabbed wildly at my face. Haunt me all you want. Come back to me, if you dare. You were the one who stole someone else's love. What did I do wrong? Even if you come back to life, I
can kill you again. Kill you.
Her voice was her eyes bloodshot, her hysterical expression more terrifying than a ghost. I crouched opposite Zara Ling, chin in hand, smiling as I watched her unravel. If you're scared, leave Finlu on your own. Sooner or later he'll kill
you.
I may hate you, but I won't let you ruin Finlu. Just then, Finlu came up From the basement, Zara Ling's expression shifted naturally as she threw herself into Finless's arms with reined eyes. Honey, Myron came back to find me again. Quick, take her photo away and burn it. In her momentary panic, she completely forgot her best friend persona. A cryptic smile appeared on Finless's face. If you've done nothing wrong, why are you always worried about Myra coming back for you? Aren't you her best friend? But even if she was my best friend, I'd still be scared if she turned into a ghost. Zara Ling, still shaken, stammered out her words. There are no such things as ghosts in this world. Don't scare yourself like this. Finless smiled and gently pushed Zara Ling away, intending to say more words of comfort, but his face turned deathly pale when he saw the shattered photo frame behind her. In the photo, my gentle, smiling eyes had been viciously scratched to pieces by some sharp object. Finless's pupils suddenly contracted to pinpoints, eerily resembling the eyes of a wild beast. Locking onto its prey, he walked over and bent down. His movements as he picked up the photograph were almost reverently slow, his fingertips tracing the vicious scratches. He turned around, slowly, offering Zara Ling an exceptionally gentle smile. Did you do this? Yet the tone carried an extreme
Chill.
The air suddenly grew thick, the stench of blood spreading. Zara Ling sensed it. I felt a chill run down my spine under his intense gaze. Her eyes widened in fear as she shook her head repeatedly. Finless suddenly returned to normal, his tone surprisingly gentle.
I
shouldn't have hung Myra's memorial photo in the living room. It must have scared you, right? That's my fault.
Zara
Ling felt overwhelmingly wronged,
tears
streaming down her face.
Honey, it's
Okay if you scared me, but I'm afraid it might scare our baby. You know, I'm just less than 3 months pregnant and the fetus isn't stable yet. This is our first child, and I can't lose her. Feeney led warmly. All right, then.
I'll
put the photos away and never let you see them again.
Okay.
It seemed he had completely stopped caring about me. Zara Leon nodded, nestling in his arms, a triumphant smile curling at the corners of her lips. Indeed, time heals all wounds, and Finla has finally moved on, but she doesn't know that the child in her womb isn't Finless at all. Finla detests her to the core, so how could he possibly have touched her?
Zara
Ling is health conscious and enjoys soaking her feet in herbal medicine before bed, claiming it helps reduce swelling and aids sleep every night.
The
foot washing water that Finlu personally brought to her had an extra herb added to it, one that could also be called a hallucinogen on those nights. Whether it was a beggar or a filthy, disease-ridden thug rolling in the sheets with Zara Ling remained entirely unknown.
in
Fact, on the very night Finlu argued with me and threatened divorce, he immediately tracked down the IP address of the person who had sent me the message. When Finlu discovered that the one who had framed him for infidelity was Zara Ling, his first reaction was to assume it was just some cruel prank between girlfriends until he received a call from Zoriang informing him that I had died from massive hemorrhage during a difficult childbirth. Later, the hospital internally classified the incident as a medical accident and initially planned to fire Zara Ling, holding her legally accountable and making her the scapegoat. However, unexpectedly, Finlu accepted the hospital's apology and compensation, deciding to settle privately and not pursue the hospital's responsibility. Of course, the hospital leadership also didn't want the matter to escalate and affect their reputation. Actually, Finlu knew very well that sometimes the outcome of legal proceedings might not satisfy him. Only by resolving things his own way could he avoid any regrets. That's why he had been conducting secret investigations all along. He hacked into the hospital's surveillance video
system.
The surveillance footage from that day was completely deleted. However, there were no cameras in the delivery room to begin with, so he could only recover the surveillance video from the hallway outside the delivery room that day. He spent a long time examining it frame by frame, listening to every word, not missing any
Detail.
Finlu is deaf in his left ear, which is why his right ear has inexplicably become extraordinarily
Sharp.
Finlu clearly heard my agonizing screams on the day I gave birth and distinctly caught every cruel and
Vicious word Zarang said to me. She
called me an idiot and cursed my daughter with Finlu as a little bastard. He even keenly noticed the faint cries our daughter once made. He clearly had the chance to meet a living daughter, but he didn't even get to see his daughter's body because my death had
such a huge impact on him.
by the time he had dealt with my funeral arrangements and came back to his senses to think about our daughter, Zara Ling told him that our daughter's body had already been claimed by the hospital for medical education and research.
Zara.
Ling lied to Finlu, saying, "It was my dying wish that our daughter make one final contribution to society."
She even
Showed him an authorization document with my signature on it. Finlu saw through my forged signature at a glance. It was a counterfeit written by Zara
Ling.
He remained expressionless.
The
Night Finlu learned the truth.
he sat in.
Stunned silence the entire night.
I
Stood behind him the whole time, keeping him company. He appeared quite calm, without the hysteria I had imagined, only muttering the words, "Little beast," repeatedly, his shoulders trembling slightly until the first ray of morning sunlight fell upon his face. As I frantically hid in the shadows, I finally saw that his face was already strewn with tears. The next day, Zarang's parents died together in a car accident. Father was pierced through the heart by steel rebars that fell from a large truck. Mother was crushed beyond recognition by the overturned truck. Zara Ling thought it was just an accident, crying her heart out in Finlu's arms, and was hospitalized for several days. But I knew the driver of that truck was someone Finlu knew. More than half a year passed, and there was less than a week left until the due
date.
Zarang's belly had grown very large. As an obstetrician gynecologist,
She had known for a while that the baby
in her womb was also a girl. During this time, she joyfully decorated the nursery that was originally prepared for my daughter, but it's now filled with Zara Ling's personal belongings.
the
Hand-painted mural in the room was created by an artist I specially invited from Paris, depicting a fairy tale world. In the great forest, a little rabbit wearing a crown holds a crystal baby bottle, while a unicorn gently touches a hanging silver windshield with its golden horn. Cloud-shaped ceiling lights float on the ceiling. The crib was specially custom-ordered from Italy, with a headboard carved from a single piece of walnut wood into a fairy tale castle. A velvet-cushioned rocking chair sits by the bay window,
while the
nursery is filled with the subtle scent of Joe Malone's Bluebell, mingling with the soft, fresh aroma of newly unpacked baby supplies. Zara Ling has unapologetically claimed the space as her own. She smiles as she surveys the nursery, murmuring to herself, "My wrong might be an idiot, but her taste in nursery design aligns perfectly with
mine.
no need for a redesign. What a great best friend she is." She entered the room, simply adding a few dolls to the collection. Meanwhile, I sat on the woolen carpet in the room, watching her expressionlessly as my daughter had just leaped from my arms onto the chandelier
And was now swinging on it.
"Mommy, I really love those little pink dresses in the closet." Her voice was sweet and childish, her words barely intelligible. I replied to her with a gentle expression, "Sweetheart, just like Mommy, you love pink. This little dress was originally bought for you by Daddy. Daddy loves you very much. Daddy loves
me."
My daughter wrinkled her nose, looking aggrieved. "But that Auntie has such a big belly.
Daddy will soon have a
new baby. And then my little dress will become my sister's." I comforted her. "It's okay. Wouldn't it be nice to let your sister wear it for Daddy to see?"
My
daughter smiled and said, "Mommy is
right.
Anyway, I can't wear it for Daddy
To see.
Let my sister wear my pretty Little dress for daddy. It's the same.
But this Andy, the daughter suddenly
Pouted, her big eyes brimming with tears, pointing towards the wardrobe. There was only a ripping sound.
the
Sound of silk tearing, following the direction my daughter pointed.
I saw
Zara Ling gripping a silver pair of scissors, tugging and cutting at my daughter's little dresses in the closet.
all those little beasts are dead. I
Don't know why Finlay keeps these things. Just to disgust me. Does he think I don't know these dresses were originally bought for the dead? What awful luck. Zara Ling, with her belly protruding, furiously shredded every single little dress in the wardrobe into pieces, her face filled with resentment. Those were all carefully chosen by Finlay for their daughter, and they had been his emotional solace during this time.
I
Turned to look at the large teardrops on my daughter's face, feeling utterly helpless. Cry it out. Mom doesn't know how to comfort you either. Mom also feels like crying just as she was picking up the scattered pieces of fabric and dumping them all into the
trash bin.
The door to the room had unknowingly cracked open. Finlay stood outside the door, his face filled with murderous rage. Zara Ling was startled. She knew Finlay occasionally came to this nursery to rest when he was drunk, and she had even seen him staring blankly at a few clothes in the wardrobe. She knew Finlay had never forgotten about us, mother and daughter, so she was determined to destroy everything related to us, even if Finlay would be angry.
But
She bet Finlay wouldn't dare to do anything to her. After all, she was already carrying his child. However, Zarang still felt a bit guilty, unsure of what Finlay had seen or heard. She plastered a flattering smile on her face and said, "Honey, why did you come home from work so early today?" The next second, Finlay suddenly grabbed her by the neck and dragged her toward the basement of the villa. Zariang's face turned blue and purple as Finlay lifted her up by the collar, her toes barely touching the ground.
she
Frantically clawed at Finlay's wrist, stammering, "Honey, what are you doing?
you're hurting me."
Finlay ignored her and continued dragging her along. I was utterly shocked, hastily catching up with the two of them. The basement of the villa had somehow been converted into an operating room, or rather it looked more like a delivery room.
I
Stood outside the door, stunned for a few seconds. Upon entering, I saw Zara Ling already tightly strapped to the delivery bed, her legs spread wide open. At this moment, blood trickled from the corner of her mouth. Her hair was disheveled, and her eyes burned with fury. Zara Ling shouted loudly, "Finlay, have you gone mad? I'm still carrying your daughter in my womb. What do you think you're doing? You, actually, resorted to domestic violence over a few pieces of clothing. Watch out.
I might
Just cut you out of our lives forever, and never let you see your daughter again." Zarang knew Finlay liked children, and didn't hesitate to use her daughter to threaten him. Finlay tilted his head slightly as he walked up to Zariang, looking down at her from his superior
height.
Zara Ling's chest heaved violently.
Daughter
Finlay let out a low chuckle from his throat. "You just
reminded me.
It's about time your daughter came out to see you sooner." Zara Ling immediately sensed something off in Finlay's words.
Isn't my
"Daughter also your daughter? What do you mean by that? Are you saying you don't want to acknowledge her?"
Zara
Ling's voice trembled, her face drained of color. Finlay simply smiled. Then in front of her, he slowly put on the blue surgical gown and sterile
gloves.
He carefully opened the prepared blue sterile pack. Inside, surgical knives of various sizes, sterile forceps, scissors, and other instruments were all readily available. This procedure was more familiar to Zara Ling than to Finlay. I could see the uncontrollable fear on her face. At this moment, she must have had a terrifying association in her mind. Zara Ling couldn't understand why Finlay would
Treat her like this.
Had he already discovered something? It couldn't be. She had been so meticulous in covering her tracks during the more than a year since Zara Ling and Finlay got married. Finlu had always been obedient to her in every way, and she could feel that Finlu loved her. Honey, what's wrong with you? Are you feeling unwell somewhere? Zara Ling softened her voice.
What
exactly did I do wrong? I love you so much, and I'm carrying your daughter.
How
could you bear to hurt me? Her eyes were red and her voice was as gentle as usual, trying to reawaken Finlu's love for her. Finlu sneered. You didn't actually think I married you because I loved you, did you? Zara Ling trembled all over upon hearing these words back.
Then,
when you made Myra suffer through childbirth until she died in agony, she screamed in pain for a full 4 hours. Zara Ling, since you and Myra were such close friends, don't you think you should experience the same suffering she went through? Finn was incredibly gentle as he spoke these words.
Zara
Ling's voice trembled. Finlu, what nonsense are you talking about? Myra is my best friend. How could I possibly have killed her? Are you having mental health issues? Let me go, and I'll take you to see a doctor.
Okay.
A smile appeared on Finlu's face. Aren't you the doctor? However, today I am your
doctor.
He professionally applied the dark brown iodine solution to Zerong's large belly over and over again, just as if he were truly a professional obstetrician, preparing Zara Ling's skin for a cesarean section by disinfecting
it.
The iodine-soaked gauze covered her entire abdomen, and the cool sensation made Zara Ling scream out loud.
She
struggled incessantly, writhing wildly. Her body trembled like a SIE. Yet the more she struggled, the tighter the ropes constricted around her. She had already guessed what Finlu intended to do next. He wanted to dissect her child, alive without any anesthesia.
Husband, I
was wrong. Myra is dead and can't come back. Please, for our daughter's sake,
spare me.
I'll do anything you ask from
now on.
Zara Ling pleaded. I did do terrible things to Myra back then, but it was only because I loved you so much. Her death was truly an accident. I never meant to kill her. Really, husband?
Please believe me. Okay.
Zara Ling begged desperately, still making excuses. Even now, Finlu lowered his head, looking at her with pity. Too late. You've already lost your chance. You called my Myra the fool for not knowing how to push during childbirth.
But
you're the doctor.
It was her first time
giving birth. How could she have had any experience with that? This is your first time giving birth, too. But you won't have to endure the pain of a natural delivery this time. I'll help you out. No need to thank me. Oh, by the way, you also called my daughter a little beast with a strong will to survive.
But
what's the use of such a strong will to survive? Aunt Zara never intended to save her and even disposed of her like trash. His pitch-black eyes stared unblinkingly at Zara Ling, the scalpel in his hand gleaming coldly. I wonder if your daughter has a strong will to survive, too. The next second, accompanied by Zara Ling's pig slaughter-like screams, Finlu smiled and slowly sliced open her belly.
The air
began to fill with a heavy stench of
blood.
The surrounding temperature seemed to instantly become damp and icy cold. I floated in midair, watching Finlu descend into madness bit by bit. Amidst the worry and sorrow, an indescribable sense of pleasure slowly swept over my entire body. Zara Ling
truly deserves to die.
If it weren't for her, Finlu and I should have had a harmonious and loving family of 3. Finlu held the scalpel and methodically cut through the layers of her abdomen, all the way until the uterus was visible. Zara Ling remained fully conscious throughout, screaming in agony and passing out from the pain multiple
times.
Finlu was extremely patient, always waiting for her to regain consciousness before resuming the
surgery.
When Zara Ling slowly opened her eyes again, Finlu was holding a scalpel and smiling at her. I'm curious, which hurts more, childbirth or this C-section of yours? Zeriong's face was filled with despair and fear. Her back was already soaked in blood, and the pain had left her too weak to
Respond.
Finlay stood on the bloodstained floor, whispering words of comfort to her. Hold on a little longer. I can already see your amniotic sac. The baby will be out soon. Are you saying you intentionally ruptured Myra's amniotic sac back then, which forced her to deliver prematurely? So, this is what an amniotic sac looks like. Finlay, his face full of curiosity, slowly pierced her amniotic sac with the knife in his
Hand.
a soft asterisk pop asterisk
Sound.
The amniotic fluid had completely
Drained.
The next second, he yanked the child out of Zhurong's opened womb. With his bare hands, Zara Leong let out another blood-curdling scream like a pig being slaughtered. Finlay, I was wrong. Please just kill me.
Stop torturing me.
Like this. I can't take it anymore. I am willing to atone with my death.
But the
child is your flesh and blood. I beg you to raise her well. Zara Leong seemed to have lost the will to live, exerting all her strength to utter her final words. Finlay turned a deaf ear to her pleas, instead exclaiming with excitement, It's out. Piss us out.
Zara
Leong's demise flickered with a momentary glow at the sight of the
child.
My baby. But the baby was blue, all over with the umbilical cord wrapped around its neck twice, looking limp and seemingly no longer breathing.
Zara
Leong instantly snapped back to attention. Quick, save my baby.
She's
suffocating. Help untangle the umbilical
cord.
Clear the secretions from her mouth and nose, and keep her airway open. At this moment, Zara Leong was still directing Finlay in a highly professional manner to resuscitate the baby, clearly appearing as a skilled and compassionate doctor dedicated to saving lives. Finlay held the baby by her left leg with one hand, dangling her upside down and cut her umbilical cord. Then, right in front of Zara Leong, he threw the fetus into the yellow medical waste bag on her left side.
No.
Zara Leong widened her eyes, crying out with all her remaining strength, Finlay, you're not human. She's your own daughter.
How
could you not even spare your own child? Finlay shrugged and casually remarked to the trash can, I'm sorry,
but your mom is about to die.
Why don't you join her down there? It'll save her from being too lonely. A faint, kitten-like whimper could be heard from within the yellow trash bag. Finlay turned back to a stunned Zara Leong and said, This little bastard actually survived. The will to live is truly
strong.
He returned every word Zara Leong had ever said to me back to her. Zara Leong's heart was as cold as ashes. Her chest heaved violently, as if she was about to take her last breath. Before you die, I must clarify one thing. I never laid a finger on you. Those nights, the people who made you lose yourself in pleasure were all beggars I randomly picked up from the streets. As for who the father of your child is, truth be told, I don't know either. Finlay finished speaking and flashed her a radiant smile. Zara Leong suddenly trembled violently, her eyes widening in shock. Then her pupils dilated, and gradually she stopped breathing. Finlay looked at the large freezer placed in the corner. He expressionlessly stuffed the person inside until a year later, when a passerby accidentally fished up a red suitcase while fishing in the wild.
Upon
opening it, they discovered it was a woman's torso, with all the organs in the abdominal cavity removed. That terrifying scene and unforgettable stench left a deep shadow on this passerby, making him never want to pick up a fishing rod again. He scrambled away in a panic and called the police. Immediately, on the day Finlay was sentenced to death for murder and dismemberment, he also admitted that his own biological mother had been killed, dismembered, and dumped in the wild by him. He calmly accepted the sentence and stated that he would not appeal. Later, the police also uncovered the true cause of my death. This caused Finlay's case to be delayed for a long time and reopened for review. Finlay was once again sentenced to death, but this time with a 2-year reprieve due to his good behavior in prison, he received a reduced sentence, which was commuted to life imprisonment. Later, when he was released from prison, he was already over 70 years old. After his release, he dug out my ashes from under the bed.
He
Sealed my ashes inside a human-shaped plaster figure and returned to the countryside. He dressed the plaster figure in the pink dress I loved most when I was alive and even applied lipstick and nail polish to it. During the day, he carried me while working in the fields, and at night he held me
close to sleep.
The villagers always saw him holding a terrifying plaster doll, and they all thought he had gone mad, floating in midair. I watched my husband grow old alone, unable to find peace for a long time.